NBA players that were homeless. By birth, some people are so lucky, others have to fight tooth and nail just to stay alive. This bizarre fact is common across the globe. So, how can NBA players be exempt from it? Hey there! You are watching Bizarre Sports. Today, we are going to talk about NBA players that have been homeless. Stick around to know how they get so far from nowhere. Before we move on, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Dennis Rodman. Usually, accomplishment is measured by comparison standards. Regardless, each individual's journey begins from a different starting point. However, for people, it does not matter how arduous your journey was or what kind of challenges you actually had to face. They just look at the achievements. The same is the case with Dennis Rodman. Many of his fans remember him for being a 7-time member of the NBA All-Defensive First Team, while some others know him for being 2-time the winner of the NBA Defensive Player of the Year award. But few are aware of the fact that his early life was as terrible as anyone's life could be. Following the birth of Rodman, his father Philander Rodman Jr. abandoned the family. His father would later settle in the Philippines. To support her family, his mother Shirley took many odd jobs and even worked at 4 different part-time jobs to support her family. Rodman and his 2 sisters, Deborah and Kim, were raised in Dallas's Oak Cliff neighborhood. At that time, it was the city's most poverty-stricken neighborhood. Rodman grew up there, and in his teenage years, he got a job at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport as a janitor. He was arrested at the airport store for stealing watches and sent to jail for a whole night. Fortunately, he had not sold the watches. That's why the criminal charges were eventually dropped. After high school education, he drifted through jobs aimlessly for 2 years before his mother kicked him out. Rodman was now a homeless, jobless, 19-year-old adolescent. He lived on the streets, sleeping in friends' homes, backyards, parks, and behind a 7-Eleven. Luckily, he has made a rapid rise from 5'8" to 6'8" in several months. A family friend informed the head coach of Cook County College about Rodman. As a result, he began playing basketball in college. He averaged 17.6 points and 13.3 rebounds per game. However, he did not graduate from college and never enjoyed a complete season of basketball owing to his low academic results. However, a small NAIA school coach noticed him and recruited him. Rodman was a 3-time NAIA All-American at that school. He averaged 25.7 points and 15.7 rebounds over 3 seasons, twice led the NAIA team in those categories, posting a 63.7 field goal percentage. He entered the NBA at the age of 26, considerably older than the average rookie. Former Pistons president, Tom Wilson, described Rodman as extraordinarily, agonizingly shy, and difficult to get along with. On the court, Rodman, however, wowed teammates and the NBA with his one-of-a-kind style of play. He was unconcerned with scoring. Rather than that, he concentrated on rebounding and defense and established himself as a vital cog for the bad boy. However, things eventually turned south in Detroit for Rodman. One day, he was found asleep in his car outside the Pistons arena, with a loaded rifle. Later, Rodman admitted it was a suicide attempt due to his lack of motivation and desire to live. But, after that incident, he managed to change himself and never looked back again. Dennis Rodman achieved success after success and chose some controversial antics to have fun with, such as many piercings and tattoos, as well as dating the national crush, Madonna. Moreover, he enjoyed reckless spending on parties and lavishness that not any other NBA player could imagine. So, when the last championship run with the Bulls ended in 1998, Rodman would bounce around from team to team but was soon out of the league, out of a job, and still spending money. He admitted to his faults in life and wishes he did better, and that's good, but his free fall was so legendary that most stars try not to end up like him. Eddie Curry. Eddie Curry was once heralded as an exceptional player from the day he stepped into professional basketball. Out of high school, he was chosen 4th overall. The 7-foot-tall, 300-pound Illinois resident was called the next Shaquille O'Neal, and had he lived up to the expectations, his legend might have written itself, but things didn't go as expected. Despite putting up a few good seasons in points, he was out of the league just after a few seasons. He had underperformed and was on the verge of being out of the NBA by the age of 25. This is remarkably sad as he had the skills and potential, but the NBA abandoned him by then without giving him any chance and moved on. Curry has gotten himself into a lot of trouble since then. One day, his driver suspected him of heinous crimes in 2009. Since then, Curry has had more bad luck. His property was foreclosed on in 2009 owing to unpaid mortgage bills of more than $200,000 at the time. So, as you can see, it does not take long for a former star athlete to lose everything. Curry was once the favorite to come out of the draft in a long time, but he was actually let go from his last team after a few seasons. That's probably why it is often said about draft night. It's a game of expectations and dreams rather than certainties. Latrell Sprewell. By the late 1990s, Latrell Sprewell's name had become synonymous with trouble, which is not something you want to associate with. Things did not improve when he retired from the league. In fact, shortly after retiring in 2005, Sprewell found himself in legal trouble, beginning with the repossession of his yacht in 2007 due to over $1 million in unpaid bills. After this, he found himself in foreclosure and lost his house in 2008. During 1997 practice with the Golden State Warriors, Sprewell famously choked his coach PJ Carlesimo and was accused of doing the same thing to a woman a decade later. While there is a distinction between being a bad man on the court and being a bad man in life, Latrell was unquestionably a bad man at both, and he paid the price for it. Delonte West. Delonte West, a first-round draft pick out of St. Joseph's and has played for the Boston Celtics, Seattle Supersonics, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Dallas Mavericks. He had already hit rock bottom at the age of 32. West made headlines after photos surfaced online showing him begging for money on the streets of Maryland. Some believe he became homeless and is suffering from schizophrenia. On the other hand, West denies the rumors, claiming that he was merely assisting a homeless man. This isn't the first time West has made headlines for his behavior. In 2009, he was convicted after being pulled over and discovered to be carrying several guns, including a big shotgun concealed in a guitar case. As you can see, sometimes an NBA player's life falls apart after they leave the league. This is the reason why people strive so hard to achieve fame or, at the very least, be consistent enough. It was more about demonstrating that everyone was wrong. Derek Coleman. Derek Coleman was an above-average power forward in the NBA despite possessing the skills to be a perennial all-star. Making a single all-star team, which is normally sufficient for some, was clearly insufficient to protect him from what was about to happen. He played for the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Nets mostly during his playing career. In his NBA career, he averaged a decent 16.5 points per game to go along with 9.3 rebounds per game, which again would have made him a good player in the eyes of some as those points and rebounds add up over the course of a season. Coleman, on the other hand, did himself no favors by making ill-advised investments. Typically, when one hears about bad investments, one thinks of a failed business, but Coleman's case is different. He invested in an entire city. A significant portion of his career earnings was squandered as he attempted to revitalize the Detroit economy by investing in community development projects in the region. His company ultimately failed, and as a result, he was bankrupt. Claims state he owed almost $5 million to 50 to 99 creditors. This is another side effect of NBA celebrities. Coleman made millions of dollars and believed he could change the world in meaningful ways, which is admirable, but money cannot always solve problems, as he discovered the hard way. Coleman is now residing in Detroit, which has not recovered to its former glory.